Today's presentation will cover the tools and techniques used in virtual librarianship. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Virtual Librarianship. I'm so happy you're here. If you have not already done so, please go to joinpd.com, put in the code UPKGQ. It will remain in the upper right-hand corner if anything happens. All right, so do you think maintaining an online presence is important even when we're in our physical spaces? You go ahead and drag the cursor over to the yes or to the no. If you're just logging in, go to joinpd.com and put in the code that you see in the upper right-hand corner, which is UPKGQ. And I just put it in the chat. So if there's anything that COVID-19 and the flip to remote learning has taught us, maintaining an online presence is important. A virtual presence is essential even when we're in our physical spaces. We know our students can't always get to us, so maintaining these virtual spaces where they can access the tools and resources of the Media Center is essential, even when we're in our physical spaces. Many of us have already begun to create our virtual libraries, and we need to take the time to grow the virtual spaces we created last year. Continue to build and update your virtual library spaces to meet the needs of your students and faculty. Throughout this presentation, I'm going to be talking about the various elements that go into the creation of our virtual spaces, and listen with the idea of figuring out which part of virtual librarianship you feel is essential to your practice as a media specialist. Which element will help your students the most? Focus on that element to grow your virtual library offerings before branching out to other parts. So before we move on, got one more question, which is, what do you think is the most important element of a virtual library? I can show you the responses. So I wanted to do this with Pear Deck so you could see a way to engage your students if you're doing an online presentation. That's a little bit different than just this, the standard sit and get. It's hard to have the interactivity when we're virtual, and this kind of helps with that. And we're kind of split between video tutorials, curated content, Google Classroom, and website. So far, nobody has said virtual book displays, although I think those are an important part. But everybody has different students and different needs. But we're going to start with digital book displays. They are similar to traditional book displays. They're eye-catching. They draw your readers to books you want them to consider. They give you, information about the book. But they function almost the same way traditional book displays do. But when we create book displays in our media center and we use them to draw students to the set of books we'd like them to focus on, those displays are temporary. In that as soon as our students come through and start checking out the books, the displays start to dissipate. The book display did its job and it attracted our students, but the displays begin to lose their significance and effectiveness once the kids come through. A book display that doesn't have books doesn't achieve what we set out to do. So virtual book displays are a bit more permanent. And when you juxtapose this with the traditional book display, they can be a lot more versatile. The virtual book display stays constant, and as students can't check the books out directly from the books or directly from the display, but they do accomplish the same thing. So the virtual book display can offer a lot more information in that you can link it to book trailers, audio excerpts, author information. So consider adding these information to your physical displays when we're able to with things like QR codes, but consider making both a virtual and a physical book display. This way, all of your students will be able to access the information we want them to have even when they're unable to be in our physical spaces due to COVID-19 or simply because time does not permit. So when you create a book display in your physical space, you spend time crafting it to be eye-catching and appealing. And the sole purpose of creating these displays is to draw our students to these books. Put the same effort into creating your virtual book displays. Consider these two displays. Which one do you think would appeal to your students more? Put your personality into your book displays. What works for my students may not work for your students. Always keep your students in mind when creating these virtual spaces. Ask yourself what your students would prefer when creating these displays, and use that as your North Star to guide you as you build your virtual book displays. They don't have to be Bitmoji. This is just something that I happen to do, and I find them to be adorable. Your students may not, so you have to do what works with your students. It's easy and fun to create digital book displays. I love creating them even more than I like creating book displays in my physical library. I can add my personality to them, and that's going to come through to my students. I suggest using Google Slides or Google Docs to create them. They can easily be embedded into a Google site, you need to make sure that your links are active. Additionally, you can download them as PDFs and place them in a Google Classroom to easily share them with your students. The key to these displays is to make them as visually pleasing as possible, include book covers, make it interactive. You can find many fantastic resources to add to your virtual book displays in teaching books, and you can find teaching books in your portal. And please share that resource with your students and your teachers as well. So this is a virtual book display that I created for the FY21 Florida Teens Read List. Each book links to either a book trailer, an audio excerpt, or information about the author. The link in the dog's thought bubble takes you to the Palm Beach County Library where students can check them out in an ebook format. This one book display is a one-stop shop for high school students to access this year's Florida Teens Read books. And the display encourages them to read the books they're interested in. It makes it really easy for them to access those books. Just a note on the SSYRA, FTRs, we are hoping to make that purchase, but everything we do requires a waiver, so that is in flux. The intention is to purchase them like we normally do. We're just waiting for approval, and we'll put that information out as soon as we get it. So moving on to your virtual library. Your virtual library site is a digital representation of your physical library. You need to put the same effort into creating your virtual space as you do into creating your physical space. Both need to be warm, welcoming, and inclusive. These things don't happen by accident. When we plan, we can develop the kind of spaces our students need in both our physical and our virtual spaces. So some things to consider when we're creating our virtual libraries. Make sure it's a warm, welcoming, and inclusive space. Let your personality shine through. Put effort into creating the kind of space your students need. Don't just copy somebody else's because you think it looks cool. Please just make it work for your students. Use this virtual space to help your students use the digital resources that are available to them. Consider creating some short tutorial videos to help your students access these tools and teach them how to use them. Don't link to resources in the portal, and instead create a set of directions to help your students access them. Before I move on, I'm seeing a question: what is needed to purchase them? We have to get approval from the waiver committee, and it takes some time and it takes some convincing. So use your virtual library to connect with your students, even when you can't be with them in person. Let your students know how to contact you. Put your email there, your Twitter, ask a librarian forum, etc. Add some personal features to your space. Kathleen Boutte at Jerry Thomas put pictures of her dogs in her virtual library. Julie Green at Okeechobee Middle took her students on virtual tours of Nashville in her space. Make sure it's organized. If your virtual site is unorganized, your students won't be able to find the information you'd like to share with them. It's no different than your shelves being out of order. Put effort into the way you lay out your library site. The more user-friendly and the more context you give your students, the more useful the website will be to your students and your teachers, and the more likely they are to use it. Make sure it meets the needs of your students. No two virtual library sites will be the same. Please check frequently so that you check for broken links. And updating your site is going to keep it fresh and keep your students returning. Checking for broken links is going to reduce frustration on the part of your students. Check to make sure all that your Google Docs that you have placed on the site have the correct sharing links. If they don't, your students and staff will have to request permission to view them. So the best way to share them, particularly on a website, is anyone with the link can view. That ensures that anyone who's looking at your site will see everything that's on the site. Remember, our students won't always be logged in when they're looking at our websites. So if you share it, anyone with the link in Palm Beach County can view, they may not be able to see things. Don't link to items that are in the portal. This is just going to frustrate your students when they click on the items. So if you place a link to Worldbook on your site, it's going to take them to the login page and they don't have the username and password. Those resources are single sign-on for us through the portal. So instead, point your students to these resources in the portal. This is going to make sure that they are able to access them with single sign-on, alleviating any frustrations. So these are just a few key components, many of which I mentioned in the previous slide, but they bear repeating. You can use this slide as a checklist to ensure that your site has all the information your students need. Have some way for your students and faculty to connect with you and ask you questions. Have a calendar of your upcoming events in your library. The schedule will help your students get involved in library programming. Consider adding your social media feed. If you have library accounts on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, consider embedding the information into your virtual library site. We are media specialists, and one of our primary objectives is sharing literature with our students. Consider adding those virtual book displays to point them towards new materials in your library, both print and electronic. Make sure to include information that is critical to your students. You might have a page on your library site that is dedicated to a collaborative effort with a teacher. It gives your students a central place to get all of their information. And create your website to be used during virtual learning as well as during in-person learning. These virtual spaces are critical to meeting the needs of our students all the time, not just when we aren't in our physical libraries. So I chose a few exemplar library sites for the information that they contain and how they showcase it for their students. The first, I'm going to start with our elementary sites. At first glance, the Indian Pines Elementary, you can see that the media specialist personality comes through with the way she has arranged the website and the information she chose to feature on our homepage. She has a message about enjoying the summer. She has messages about book return. And she also has a way for her students to get in contact with her. We're going to take a quick closer look at it. She did a really nice job. You can see she's got a section for ebooks, database, distance learning, SSYRA, and more. It's organized nicely. Kids know it's her. They're going to have an easy time with that one. The next one is Jerry Thomas, which I really love. I love that she has her personal features on there. She had her dogs on here. She's got herself and her clerk in superhero capes. She organizes the information in a way that makes it easy for her students to navigate. So I really like that one as well. And moving on. The Canal Point site features 2 virtual book displays. These displays feature read-alouds that honor the copyright policies of the publishers during the COVID-19 school closures. Please be sure to check those policies. They are being updated all the time. Her read-alouds are only accessible when students sign into the school district, which allows Kimberly Bauer, the media specialist, to share her read-alouds with her students while honoring copyright. Let's take a quick look at her site. She's organized it in a really nice way for her students. Does take a bit to load, but she's got everything that the kids at Canal Point could possibly need there. Now, onto a high school site. Hannah Budd at Forest Hill has a phenomenal page on her site that introduces her students to the Gale research products. She has a how-to video, directions for locating the Gale tile in the portal, and a screenshot of what her students will see when they access Gale. Let's take a quick look at Forest Hills now. I'm going to click on her Gale research. She has a video, how to access it, what it looks like, some tips and support content, everything to make it easy for her students to access the Gale products. The last two we're going to take a look at are Rebecca Radix from Atlantic High School. I love how she has laid her site out. She uses something other than Google Sites to create hers, so it looks a little bit different. She does pay for her resource. It's laid out really nicely. You can see all of the values that she has for her media center. And she has areas that are for teachers, and they are password protected. This is a really nice way to share information with your teachers that you don't want all students to be able to access. And I'm going to share Alonso Torres's at Eagles Landing. I love that he has put in some student book recommendations, giving the students some ownership and making them feel valued. All right, so what is the best product to use to load videos into your site? I would highly recommend embedding them using YouTube, is particularly if you're using Google Sites. It's the easiest way to do that. And everyone has a YouTube channel as part of their G Suite with the district. All right, so on to promoting your virtual library. So if you want to know where you can go to see more virtual library sites, go check out Library Current. You'll see virtual libraries in action, and you can see many, many different examples of virtual library sites if you need some inspiration. To launch your site, I would ask your teachers to put it in their Google Classrooms. Link it from your Destiny splash page. Put it on your school website, like Kathleen Boutte at Jerry Thomas did. And email us a link at Library Media Services, and we will be happy to place a link on both the Pleasure Reading websites that we have and on Library Current, making it easy for people to find those. And the Pleasure Reading resources, just so you know, are linked off the student support site. All right, so Google Classroom. Google Classroom is a vital part of your virtual library. It's where, if we're virtual, which we are, you're going to conduct your live meets for security purposes. If you create your meet in Google Classroom, students can't join the meet until you open the room, and they can't rejoin the meet once you've closed it. You can use your Google Classroom in conjunction with your Google site. I've linked a short video from this presentation, and I will share that with you in e-learning about how to integrate the two. Google Classrooms are useful for a multitude of purposes. In the Media Center, they are great for sharing information that you don't want to put necessarily on your library site. They are perfect for sharing information not public, having students turn in work, giving them feedback, research collaborations with teachers, and for book clubs. I've shared two here, but I'm going to take you to Amy Armbruster's at Suncoast, and she is using hers for a middle years program personal project. I really like how she's using this. The students were turning in their classwork on Google Classroom, and in the stream, they have all the information that they could possibly need to do their middle years personal projects. So Amy and her teachers use it as a vehicle for collaboration. The other Google Classroom that I wanted to spotlight is Lisa Petrosia's at Independence Middle School. She is using her classroom to manage and host her book club during virtual learning. She is by far not the only one using it. It's just the one that I chose to spotlight. Many people were doing that, and it's a great use of Google Classroom. Now, the Destiny splash page. It's another element of your virtual library. It needs to be relevant to your school population. But did you know that you could customize it? It's easy to do, and it makes your Destiny splash page more attractive and useful to your students. You can use basic HTML coding to change the color and add valuable links. You can create a Symbaloo or a thing link and embed it into the site. Do you have a YouTube video that you or your school has made that you'd like to feature? You can insert that too. If you aren't ready for HTML, you can add custom links. I'm in the process of creating how-to videos for customizing your splash page, and I will get those out to you as soon as they're completed. But remember, even here, don't link to resources that are in the portal because they will get that login that will frustrate them. So Rebecca Raddick uses Weebly, I believe it is, for her library site, and she is able to embed it directly into her Destiny site. So when her students get to Destiny, this is what they see. And it's super useful. She does pay for this feature. And unfortunately, we cannot embed Google Sites. Google Sites do not let you embed them anywhere else, but you can link directly to your website if you choose to use Google Sites. Jupiter High School has embedded a Symbaloo right into their Destiny splash page. You can see from this screenshot that they link to useful resources, and they've added lots of custom links to their page as well. You can see those down here. Customizing your Destiny splash page is a great way to make it more functional and get your students to log into Destiny and using Destiny. They link to Jupiter High School's newspaper. They link to the Battle of the Books. They link to the Palm Beach County Library. Please don't link to resources in the portal. I know I'm saying this ad nauseum, but we see a lot of this, and please, please, please try not to link to things in the portal. And I will get those tutorials out to you as soon as they are created. So, how familiar are you with Destiny collections? So some of you are somewhat, some of you have no idea. And we've thought that might be the case. Collections is a powerful curation tool, and it's been around for a few years, and it's part of Destiny Discover. Something you should know about Destiny, if you've been using Destiny Quest, as soon as we upgrade to Destiny 18, Destiny Quest will be going away. So you might want to make your students familiar with Destiny Discover. So you can do so much with Destiny Collections. It's a powerful tool for collaboration with students and teachers. In Collections, you can curate resources from within Destiny, including books and resources outside of Destiny. Collections can be collaborative. So you and a teacher can work together to curate resources for a class, and they would all be housed together in one collection. You can share your collections via email directly to a Google Classroom or with a link. Standards and grade levels can be added to the collection with a click of a button, and students can create collections too. This is an excellent way for students to collect their research in one place or show what their understanding of a topic and put their research together. So to get to collections, you're going to click on Catalog and then Destiny Discover. Once in Destiny Discover, you're going to click on Collections. And then you're going to click on Private. Once you've landed on the Private tab, click on the plus sign to start a new collection. Once you've finished your collection, you can choose to leave it private or make it public. In the follow-up for this, one of the things I ask you to do is create a collection or a Wakelet or a Pearl Tree, which we're going to go into shortly. And if you choose to do a collection, which I highly recommend, because you can add books from your actual library collection to these collections where you can't to the others, please make your collection public so that I can see it when you share the link. Now, if you want to use them with your students, you're going to have to enable student permissions in collections. To do that, you're going to click on Admin, then you're going to click on Collections Policies. Once in Collections Policies, you're going to grant them the permissions you want all the way down here for student and click Save. So if you didn't know you can customize your Destiny Discover, you can. This is one of the ways. So there are other curation tools you might wish to use as part of your virtual library. One of my favorites is Wakelet. It's a powerful tool that's easy to use. There's a Google extension, so you can quickly save your websites to a Wakelet. All right, so these are slides that Wakelet has shared with us, and it's super easy. They're explained in 3 easy steps. You can bookmark anything. You can organize and curate your information. You can collaborate on and share your Wakelets, and that includes with students, and students do not have to have accounts to collaborate on Wakelets with you. And it integrates with all of these apps. So you can integrate it with your favorite apps. Some key features, the collaboration, of course, you can make your collection so that people can copy them. Immersive Reader. Immersive Reader is going to be great for your ELL students and for your ESE students, because you can, if you're linking articles in your Wakelet, you can make the type bigger and you can translate it, and it will also read it to them. So this is really key for our ELLs and ESE students. And you can embed your collection. And I will, when I share these links are hot links, and you can watch tutorials on easily how to do these things. It's so simple, you probably won't need the tutorials, but they are there. These are just some ideas of how librarians can use them for research, resource hubs, newsletters, digital libraries, events, and resources for parents. Share this with your teachers. It's a great for them. They can document their PD, collect resources, lesson planning, classroom newsletters, and more. These are some ways you can use it with your students. There is a mobile app. The collaboration is available on the mobile app as well. It's available on the App Store and Google Play. And of course, the browser extension, it's available in all of these browsers. And some more Wakelet resources, of course, their Twitter, their YouTube, and their help.wakelet.com. All right, so curating with Pearl Trees. Pearl Trees is a new to me tool. You can share, embed, you can share them with a permalink, a QR code via Twitter, Facebook. They have 2 different options. There's a free and a paid. The free basically gets rid of your advertising, and you get more storage, but you get 2 gigs of storage with your free educational account. They have an Apple app and a Google Play app, as well as a browser extension. It's a really nice way to curate it. It's not quite as universal as Wakelet or Destiny Discover, but it's another option for you. So of the ones that I've shared, what do you think will be your favorite digital curation tool? Yeah, I see a lot of Destiny collections. And I think that's great. Destiny Discover. It's really, they're great tools. So on to communicating. You need to communicate with your teachers and students now more than ever. The communicating with teachers and students was so easy before schools were closed. If somebody needed something, they just popped into the media center. But it's more important than ever to communicate with everyone. So often our work can be invisible, and we really, really need to make our work visible. So this is a way to help make your work visible to your faculty, to your administration, and to your students. Letting both your faculty and students know that you're still there to support them and offer rich media center programming is absolutely critical. I encourage you to create an Ask a Librarian Google form and embed it into your virtual library site. Place it on your Destiny splash page and place it in your Google Classrooms. Let your students get in touch with you as easily as possible. Sending a newsletter once a month is an excellent way to let your faculty and administration know what programming you've done in the past month, but also to alert them to an exciting upcoming event. There are several tools you can use to create your newsletter. There are 3 that I highly recommend: Adobe Spark, Canva, or S'more. Spark is free. Canva has a free educator account, but S'more does have a $79 a year fee. These are just two examples of an Ask a Librarian site. One is a Google form, and one is from Rebecca Raddick's Weebly. Both serve the same purpose. And there's two newsletters I wanted to share. First one being the one done with Adobe Spark. Tasha Pert at EdTech sent this one out. It's a beautiful visual way to share information. They can be easily embedded into your Google Sites and in other places. But I love how she shared her information. It's nice with the pictures and the scrolling. This one is particularly long, but she shares some great information, and it's done in such a pleasing way. The next one was one I did when I was school-based at Seminole Trails, and it was my year in review, sharing with the faculty everything that we did for the year. I did create this in S'more. S'more is a little bit more drag and drop than Spark, and is less time consuming to create, but it does have that added fee. But another great option. So video tutorials. This is something I really recommend doing. They're uncomfortable to create a little bit. It feels very odd when you're just talking to your computer and recording yourself, but something I think that we should all consider. So if you would answer this question, have you ever created video tutorials for your students? So we're about split. Some yes, some no. The why for video tutorials. They're concise. They're available 24/7. They will get your students that immediate help. Students and teachers can go back and refer to them. Frees you up to help students and faculty in other ways, and they can be curated in many, many places. Some popular tools. Screencastify is free or paid with a Chrome extension. You can record 5 minutes on the free version. It's a nominal fee. For the full version, it's $29 a year, and it integrates with your Google Drive. It also has an editing feature built in. Screencast-O-Matic is free. There is a paid version, also a Chrome extension. Their free version lets you record up to 15 minutes, and their paid plans are either $19.80 a year or $48 a year, and it integrates with Google Drive and Google Classroom. Loom is completely free for teachers. It has a Chrome extension. You can link to videos directly from Loom. So if you didn't want to house your videos in YouTube, you can house them on Loom. But the videos can be downloaded and edited and housed elsewhere. And there's Google Meet. It's free. It's part of the G Suite applications. There are no editing tools. The one caveat is you will automatically be a part of the video. There isn't a way to get away from that. Even if your camera's off, whatever your avatar is will be shown. But it is an easy way to do that. I think that video tutorials and YouTube are definitely better together. You can create playlists for your students, embed those in a Google site. You can put them in your Google Classrooms. You can point them to the videos you want them to see. When you're doing all of these different things, you're going to need some graphics. These are my go-tos for where I find graphics for my virtual library, for my videos, for my presentations. I do create some of them using Adobe Spark. It is available in your portal. It is a great tool for you to use as a virtual librarian in creating things. You can create videos in there with slides. You can share it with your students and have them create projects, book trailers, and whatnot. It's super powerful and easy to use. Unsplash.com, these are all in the Creative Commons, and all of them are free to use. They do ask that you attribute to them. Pixabay.com, all the photos are in the Creative Commons, not all are free. And then there's freeimages.com, and all the photos are in the Creative Commons, and most are free. Our last topic for the day is virtual book clubs. So, did you host a virtual book club in FY20? So some of you did and some of you didn't. Looks like more no than yes. I would highly encourage you to do this. It's a great way to connect with your students. So on that note, do you have plans to host a virtual book club in this school year? I'm glad to see a lot of you do have those plans. I see that Michelina did it all during the year and all summer, which is awesome. Kim, there are some media specialists I can put you in touch with who can tell you what worked and what didn't work. There were many that did it, and I'd be happy to put you in touch with them. Just send me an email and I will give you those names. Betty, send me an email and I will do that. What are some of the benefits, do you think, and the challenges to hosting a virtual book club? So yeah, I'm seeing lots of things. The benefits are kids are reading and discussing. Kids can engage in books when they're not together physically. Finding the time is always an issue. Getting students to regularly participate is an issue, but it's something that you'll have to talk up. Perhaps visiting teachers' Google Classrooms and telling them that you're going to have that book club will get kids engaging. So just a couple of tips. When you're hosting your virtual book club, start with an icebreaker. Let your students take the lead. Remind your kids to prepare ahead of time. This is key. The more prepared they are, the better the discussion will be. Ask them some text to self questions and underscore preparation as a means of participation. I've linked 2 different articles about how to host these book clubs off the slides. These slides will be available in e-learning after the presentation. I will get those uploaded today. And just as a word of note, if you have funds, Michelina at Liberty Park said that she purchased the books for her students and that Barnes & Noble actually mailed them to her students so that they all had the book. So does anyone have any questions I can answer before we get to the exit ticket?
For the virtual libraries, do you have like a training, or is it just like you kind of just look at other people's pages and create them? Like I know
right now, now it's take a look at the pages. Emma is planning some trainings and we'll get that information out to you. And one of the things is how to create a Google site. So that will probably be in the week between the 12th and the 13th and the actual preschool week. So watch your email for an invitation from Educational Media Association for trainings on Google sites, and we will probably use that as a topic in one of our topical Tuesdays. Okay. Chelsea, what I said about Barnes & Noble was that Michelina at Liberty Park purchased the books for her students, and the Dana, who's the educational liaison at Barnes & Noble, mailed them to her students. So nobody had to go pick them up, and they got their books. Just one thing, there were some funds available.
Mm-hmm. Hey.
Hey.
So I was able to get Dana to do drive-by pickups. So if the parents wanted to pick up the books at the Barnes & Noble, but they didn't want to go in, especially when they were closed during the whole quarantine, that she will still do that. So just like they would pick up like, food at a takeout place, they're doing that service at Barnes & Noble. And some of the books I actually paid for because I was so excited that the kids were going to join that I paid for them personally. I'm hoping that I can get reimbursed, but if I don't, oh well. I know not everybody can do that. I really really can't afford to keep doing it. But and then I bought books with Scott Scherzer through Follett and had him put them into.
Well, we'll hope that she comes back. It looks like her internet was spotty. Any other questions I can answer while we wait for Michelina to come back? I think Wellington. I think Steve Wellington is the Barnes & Noble that still has the educational consultant. I believe the one in Palm Beach Gardens retired, but I'm not 100% on that. Email me and I will get you that information, Steve. All right, today's exit ticket is I would like more training on, and there are a ton of choices. These will be Topical Tuesday topics. So we're happy to provide that training during our Topical Tuesdays. All right, go ahead, Michelina. Did you have more to share? You're muted. Michelina, you're muted. You got to unmute.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. There's your other problem. I had book clubs going on. The kids would be in the middle of doing stuff, and the next thing you know, somebody would get booted in the middle of a conversation. It was frustrating. I mean, it's obvious that, you know, we're all having the same problem, so it is what it is. But yeah, Scott Schwartzer from Follett. If you have money in your Follett account, or you're, you know, like Holly said during the bucket yesterday, you know, if you guys have money, you're not going to buy physical books this year. So my suggestion is to get those books that you want into your Destiny collection. And I'm hoping that we don't have to pay for the Sunshine State Readers this year, because over the summer, I actually bought a ton of them from Follett to add to the collection, because that's what I did book club with. I started with the 2021 Sunshine State Readers for the Bob.
Gotcha. I just saw something in there about grant writing for libraries. I don't know if the Go Teach grant cycle is still open, but that would be a great project to write a grant for, because they are looking to focus their grants on virtual learning this year. So you might be able to fund books for book clubs through the Go Teach grant. Deb Speck at Gardens has already bought her FTR audio and ebooks from Mackin, and they're already in her collection, which is amazing. Like I said, we are hoping to buy them at the district level, but there are no guarantees. We have everything as a waiver, and they've turned down some things already. So we're just going to keep our fingers crossed that they approve that purchase.
Lisa, is there a way to, my biggest problem, I mean, honestly, I'm going to throw this out there, is some of the tech stuff that some of you know, like so well, like all, like even making the emoji, you know, the emoji little librarian person and everything. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to rip my hair out of my head. You know, those and like some of the other digital things, I'm still like struggling with doing some of the virtual library stuff. I mean, I had a kid that had to actually teach me how to do a presentation during my library Google Meets. So
gotcha.
Go figure.
We're here. What I can say is we're here to help. We're going to address some of that stuff during the Topical Tuesdays. EMA is going to address some of it with some trainings in that week between the 2 days and the full week. So watch your emails for that. EMA has been hard at work this summer. So consider joining. That's a plug for EMA. And Alonzo, yep, there is a video for just about everything on YouTube. For the Bitmoji scenes, I've got a Google playlist on Library Current, but we'll probably offer some training on that as well. On that note, you will have my virtual office. And I am here, except for the first week of school. I will be out. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, fortunately to be taking my son to college, so I will be unavailable for most of that week, but I am available most every other time. Shoot me an email, give me a call. I am happy to help. My office phone is forwarding to my cell phone, and I will get your calls. So I am recording this today. It will be able to be accessed in the Library Media Services YouTube channel. You can get to it at bit.ly/Library Media Services. We are putting all of our PD in that new channel. It's also linked from the Library Current page. Any other questions today? If not, I will say have a great afternoon. The follow-up is in e-learning. The follow-up is simply to create a collection with 10 items that you would use to collaborate with a teacher and to share not your entire Google virtual library site, but like the skeleton of your virtual library site. So don't feel like you have to build out the entire site. Just come up with the things that you want and then use it to build from there. All right. All right, everyone. Have a great afternoon, and thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us for today's presentation on virtual librarianship. The information contained in today's presentation was up to date as of July 22nd, 2020. For more up-to-date information, please visit our website, librarycurrent.palmbeachschools.org, or visit our YouTube channel, PBCSD Library Media Services.